They laughed, saying I was too old to understand the modern world. What they didn't expect was that I'd turn the very tools they mocked into the ones that left them speechless. Have you ever been underestimated, only to surprise everyone with what you could actually do? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Now let's get straight into the story. I still remember the day it happened. We were sitting around the dinner table, my daughter tapping away at her phone, my grandson swiping through a game, and me, quietly sipping my coffee. Out of nowhere, my son-in-law chuckled and said, "Don't even bother, Dad. You're too old for tech. Leave it to the young ones." The words stung more than I wanted to admit. Too old? I had built a career, raised children, survived tough times, and somehow the ability to send an email was now beyond me. That night, lying awake, I stared at the ceiling. His words echoed, "Too old for tech." I thought about all the times people dismissed older folks. At the bank counter, at the grocery store self-checkout, even at the doctor's office when everything moved to an online portal. I realized something. If I didn't step up, I would always be left behind. So I decided, quietly, stubbornly, that I would learn. Not for them, for me. The first step? The computer sitting in the corner of the living room. It had been collecting dust, mostly used by my grandson for school projects. I sat down, pressed the power button, and waited as the machine hummed to life. The glowing screen felt intimidating, like opening a door to a foreign country where I didn't speak the language. I started simple, typing my name, searching for old songs I used to love, then reading the news online. It was clumsy, awkward even. My finger slipped. I clicked the wrong buttons, but each mistake was a lesson, and each lesson was a tiny victory. Days turned into weeks. I watched tutorials on YouTube, ironically taught by people half my age. How to send an email. How to use social media. How to shop safely online. Each video chipped away at the wall of doubt I'd carried. At first, my family barely noticed, but then came the moment that changed everything. One afternoon, my grandson couldn't figure out how to fix his school project slideshow. He'd been struggling for hours. I walked over, glanced at the screen, and remembered a trick I'd learned the night before. I pressed a few keys, adjusted the settings, and suddenly, his slideshow worked perfectly. He looked at me, eyes wide, as if I had just pulled a rabbit out of a hat. "Grandpa, how did you know that?" I smiled. Guess I'm not too old after all. That night, for the first time in years, I felt a spark of pride, not the kind that comes from being a parent or a provider, but from proving to myself that I could grow again, that I could belong in this fast, changing world. And deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. It's funny how one small victory can open the floodgates. After helping my grandson, I felt bolder. I didn't just want to use technology, I wanted to understand it. So I made a plan. Every morning, before the house woke up, I sat at that computer with a notepad and pen beside me. I took notes like I was back in school, except this time, I was both the student and the teacher. At first, it was slow going. I wrestled with passwords, those endless combinations of letters, numbers, and symbols. I cursed when I forgot one, then chuckled at myself for getting so worked up over a few little characters. But with each setback, I grew more determined. I discovered online banking. Imagine that, checking my balance without stepping foot in the bank, paying bills with a few clicks instead of standing in line. I felt like I had unlocked a superpower. Then came social media. My daughter once told me, "Dad, you get lost on Facebook." Well, she wasn't wrong, at first. The layout looked like a maze, and every button seemed to lead somewhere unexpected. But slowly I pieced it together. I found old friends I hadn't spoken to in decades. I reconnected with a cousin in another state. And when I posted a picture of my garden, I got more likes than my grandson's basketball photos. That made me laugh. But the real turning point came when I joined an online community. It was a group for people over 50 learning new tech skills. We shared struggles, tips, and even our embarrassing mistakes. Some folks were braver than me, tackling coding and programming. Others were just trying to figure out how to video chat with grandkids. Together, we cheered each other on. That group gave me something I didn't realize I needed: proof that I wasn't alone. Proof that people my age were not relics, but pioneers, bridging the gap between what we knew and what we were learning. Of course, the skeptics in my family didn't notice. To them, I was still Dad, who needed help turning on the TV remote. And that was fine with me, because while they underestimated me, I was building something quietly powerful. One evening, my son-in-law came home bragging about finding a deal online. He'd bought a new gadget, convinced he'd saved a fortune. I listened, nodded politely, and later that night, I looked up the same product. Within minutes, I found it cheaper, with better reviews, and even free shipping. That was when an idea struck me. If I could do this once, I could do it again. And not just for myself, maybe even for others. I started helping neighbors compare products. Mrs. Jenkins down the street wanted a new blender. I researched, compared prices, and showed her how to order it safely online. She was thrilled. Then Mr. Collins needed help booking flights. I guided him through the process, saving him nearly $200. The more I did it, the more confident I became. I wasn't just learning technology, I was mastering it. And quietly, a thought formed in my mind. Maybe one day, I'd outsmart the very people who said I couldn't. But here's the thing about learning later in life. It's not just about the skill itself. It's about the mindset. Each click, each small discovery reminded me that age isn't a wall. It's a doorway. And I was just stepping through mine. The funny thing about learning in secret is that eventually the secret wants to come out. By now, weeks had passed since I first sat down at that computer. What began as timid clicks and hesitant searches had turned into a daily ritual. I wasn't just learning anymore. I was exploring. I started keeping a journal, jotting down what I discovered each day. How to clear the cache, what a cookie was, how to spot a scam email. It might sound small, but for me, each note felt like another brick in a foundation I was building. And with that foundation came courage. One night, my daughter stopped by with her phone. "Dad, my online order didn't go through. Can you take a look?" She handed it to me absent-mindedly, not really expecting I could help. But I tapped through the app, checked her payment settings, and within minutes, her order was placed. She froze. "Wait, how did you do that?" I shrugged, trying to hide the smile tugging at my lips. "Just paying attention?" She didn't say anything, but I caught the flicker of surprise in her eyes. Moments like that fueled me. They were proof, not to them but to myself, that I wasn't too old. That phrase had haunted me, but now each little success chipped it away until it was just noise. And then came the day that would change everything. It started with an email. My son-in-law had been proudly talking about a deal he was chasing online, something about reselling electronics. He'd found a can't-miss opportunity and was convinced it would double his money. When I overheard him boasting, I quietly wondered, was it really that good? That night, curiosity got the better of me. I opened my laptop, typed in the name of the company he mentioned, and within minutes, alarm bells went off. Scam reports, complaints, forums filled with people warning others to stay away. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. He was about to throw money into a hole. At first, I debated whether to say anything. After all, he was the one who had laughed at me, dismissed me, called me too old for tech. But then I thought, maybe this was my chance. My chance not just to prove him wrong, but to protect my family. The next morning, I printed out the reports I'd found. When he came into the kitchen, coffee in hand, I slid the papers across the table. "You might want to read this before you spend another $1." He frowned, skimmed the pages, and I watched the color drain from his face. Where did you find this?" he stammered. I couldn't help but chuckle. Online, the place I'm too old to understand. The silence that followed was delicious. For once, he had no clever remark. But here's the thing, it wasn't about shaming him. It was about showing myself that I had crossed a threshold. Technology wasn't just a tool anymore. It was an equalizer, a way for someone like me, dismissed and underestimated, to stand tall again. After that day, something shifted in the house. My family no longer laughed when I picked up a phone or sat at the computer. They started asking me questions, little ones at first. Dad, how do I stop these pop-up ads? Grandpa, can you help me download this app? Each time I answered with calm confidence, and each time I remembered the man I had been just weeks earlier, the one lying awake, haunted by the words, too old. That man was gone. In his place stood someone new, someone ready, because I knew this was just the beginning. Outsmarting my son-in-law had been a small victory, but the digital world was bigger than I ever imagined, and I was ready to explore every corner of it. Confidence is a dangerous thing, in the best way. Once you taste it, you start to wonder just how far you can go. After I exposed that online scam to my son-in-law, something inside me shifted. No longer was I just dabbling in technology, I was invested. I started digging deeper, not just into apps and websites, but into the very way the internet worked. Late at night, I found myself watching videos about cybersecurity. I learned how hackers trick people, how phishing emails look real but aren't, how personal data can be stolen in seconds. The more I learned, the more I realized something scary. So many people, young and old alike, were being fooled every single day. That lit a fire in me. Because if I could protect myself, maybe I could protect others too. One evening, I got a call from an old friend, Harold. He sounded panicked. They said my computer's infected, he told me. Some tech support number popped up on my screen and they want me to pay $200 to fix it. I took a deep breath. I knew exactly what had happened. It was a scam. Harold, I said firmly, don't give them a cent. Shut down your computer. I'll walk you through this. Step by step, I guided him over the phone. Clear the pop-ups. Reset the browser. Run a free scan tool I'd learned about online. 30 minutes later, his screen was clean, and so was his bank account. When he realized he didn't lose a dime, he let out a laugh of relief. I don't know how you knew all this, he said, but you just saved me. That night, I slept better than I had in years, not because I'd proven anything to my family, but because I had proven something to myself. That age didn't limit my ability to learn, adapt, and protect the people I cared about. Still, the universe wasn't done testing me. A week later, my grandson came running into the living room. Grandpa, someone hacked my game account. All my progress is gone. He was near tears. To him, that game wasn't just a pastime. It was his pride. I sat him down. Let's take a look together. We opened his account, reviewed the settings, and sure enough, someone had gotten in through a weak password. I showed him how to set up two-factor authentication. I explained why long, unique passwords mattered. Then we submitted a recovery request. 2 days later, his account was restored. The look on his face, that mixture of shock and respect, was priceless. Grandpa, he whispered, you're kind of like a hacker, but the good kind. I laughed, but inside I felt a surge of pride I hadn't felt in years. To him, I wasn't just the old guy fumbling with a remote. I was his hero. Word began to spread in the family. My daughter asked me to check her online shopping accounts for security. My son-in-law, yes, him, sheepishly asked me how to back up his files safely. Neighbors began calling too. It was as if overnight the man once called too old for tech had become the one everyone turned to. But here's what really mattered. I no longer felt invisible. I no longer felt like the world had passed me by. Instead, I felt like I had rejoined it on my own terms. And yet deep down, I knew there was still one final test, one chance to outsmart them all in a way they would never forget. Because sometimes life hands you a moment, not just to prove others wrong, but to rewrite the story they've told about you. And my moment was just around the corner. Life has a funny way of setting the stage for you. You spend weeks, even months preparing in silence. Then one day, without warning, the spotlight turns on. For me, that spotlight came during a family gathering. Everyone was crowded in the living room, plates of food balanced on laps, the television humming in the background. My son-in-law was bragging again, this time about bidding in an online auction. "Easy money," he boasted, waving his phone like a trophy. "These sellers don't know what they're doing. I'm gonna flip this stuff and double my cash." I listened quietly, sipping my iced tea, but then he pulled me into the conversation. "Hey, Dad," he said with that smirk I knew too well. "You wouldn't understand this. Too complicated. Online bidding isn't for beginners." The room chuckled. For a split second, I felt that old sting, the one I'd carried for months. Too old, too slow, too out of touch. But this time, I didn't shrink back. Instead, I leaned forward. "Really?" I said calmly. "Why don't you show me the site?" He raised an eyebrow but handed me his phone. I scrolled through the listings, my eyes narrowing. Something didn't sit right. The photos looked familiar, too familiar. I opened a new tab on my own laptop, typed a quick search, and there it was. The exact same images, pulled straight from a stock photo library. My heart raced. It was a scam. A polished one, but a scam all the same. I looked up, my voice steady. "You're about to lose more than money. This whole site is fake." The room fell silent. My daughter leaned in. My grandson's eyes widened. My son-in-law scoffed. "What makes you so sure?" I turned the laptop toward him. "See this?" I pointed to the stock photo watermark still faintly visible in one of the images. "And this? Look at the domain name. Spelled just slightly wrong, hoping people won't notice. And these reviews? All copied and pasted from another site. Word for word." The smugness drained from his face. He snatched the phone, scrolling frantically, then back to my screen. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence do its work. Finally, he muttered, I didn't see that." I couldn't help but smile. "That's because you weren't looking closely." But I was. The room erupted, not with laughter at me, but with praise. My grandson clapped like I'd just scored the winning goal in a game. My daughter shook her head in amazement. And my son-in-law, well, he didn't have much to say after that. That night, as everyone left, my grandson hugged me tight. "Grandpa," he whispered, "you're smarter than all of them." I chuckled softly. "Not smarter, son. Just willing to learn." But as I watched them drive away, I realized something important. This wasn't just about proving them wrong. It wasn't even about saving money or spotting scams. It was about rewriting the narrative of what it means to age in a digital world. People think age means slowing down, stepping back, fading out. But to me, it now meant something different. Age meant patience, perspective, resilience, all the qualities that made learning possible, not impossible. So the next time someone tells me I'm too old for tech, I'll smile, because I know better. And if I can outsmart the very people who underestimated me, well, that's just the icing on the cake. So here's what I've learned. Age isn't a barrier, it's an asset. The patience I gained over years, the discipline of sticking with something hard, the perspective to see through quick tricks, that's what made me succeed online. They once said I was too old for tech. Now they come to me for help. And the truth is, I don't mind. Because proving them wrong wasn't just about pride. It was about reminding myself that I still have more to give, more to learn, and more to share. And if you've ever been told you're too old for something, I hope my story reminds you you're not. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to stick around. We've got plenty more to share.